Welcome back to another edition of Devout Deism. I am your host, David Robertson. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and watching my videos. I do appreciate it. Had a viewer ask me basically why I find deism to be more compelling than atheism. And the list is long, honestly, and this would be a very, very long video to list them all. But I think it starts with where atheism is basically believing in, and I hate to say this, but nothing, and not really interested in exploring or changing their minds, at least in my experience. And I've got a lot of atheist friends who, I don't know, that's their approach. Their approach is basically, there's nothing out there, that's it. And when you try to have a discussion, they're very closed off about other ideas involving religion or anything else, because in my experience, again, there's a confusion because of the term religion. Most people in the 21st century think of deism think of religion as revealed religion, organized religion, and that's a disservice for not even just deism. I mean, for several religions, because there is a difference between organized religion and religion. Again, definition should be our guide. Intellectualism is the key, and I think that's kind of where this whole thing starts off. While deism rejects revealed religion, it acknowledges that nature has provided a template basically to observe. And in that template, at least so far, there's no such thing as spontaneous generation. Everything comes from something else. And it's the scientific principle of cause and effect. So when you look at it in that scheme, I mean, you start to see the divide basically between deism and atheism. There can only be one first cause. You cause and effect it backwards to the origin, and you've got first cause. And what is that first cause? What is the thing that set it in motion? And that thing, that entity, that being would be God. Now, once again, you think about the word God. I'm not talking about some guy sitting up in a cloud. I'm not talking about somebody or something who's tinkering with people's lives. It's just something or someone or some entity that put things in motion. And in my experience, most atheists are kind of like anarcho-capitalists in the idea that they get to a certain point in their logic. There are a lot of truths to what they say, but they get to a certain point in their logic and then refuse to see basically its inherent flaw. And in this case, it would be scientific principle, which, of course, atheists, they say that they rely on scientific principles, but then they turn around and deny it in the next breath. Again, speaking of cause and effect. Cause and effect, you have to look at it backwards. You have to look at it, as the bigger picture. I find deism compelling for a ton of different reasons. Specifically, though, I would say it's longevity. It's growth during periods of intellectualism as well. I think that's really big because I think that says something. You look at when education and knowledge is low, look at what religions rise. But look on the other side when intellectualism is valued, and then look at what rises. And you begin to see this stark contrast, and I think that's where deism really plays. And I think that's very telling. Then, of course, we could look at its long list of distinguished adherents throughout history. I think that's kind of a big deal. And when people know, when they really know what they're subscribing to, and I would say, and I say this towards deists, because there are some deists, and let's be honest here, there are some deists who say they're deists, but they're probably not really deists. They're very closed-minded as well. They will shut people out. They don't allow them to grow. But that's a small, very small percentage, in my opinion. So when I'm talking about people knowing what they're subscribing to and understanding what it means to be deist and what our responsibility as deists really is, it's openness, and that's something that I think is very different from a lot of other religions. And again, people will try to debate whether or not deism is a religion, but again, by definition, of course it is. And I've addressed that in my book. I have addressed that on another video, I believe, and I think I have posted that repeatedly on different deist groups and websites and things of that nature. So again, definition is key. So, but maybe I should probably also add in the desire of most deists to want to learn something new, to challenge their current state of belief. And I guess on that token, the willingness to accept the new information, and as a result, the willingness to alter or grow their current state of belief if necessary. And that's something that's very different from a lot of other religions, and specifically in contrast to atheism. The idea is to learn more and try to grow, not only spiritually but intellectually. Give me new information. Let's talk about this. Tell me something I don't know, and let me look this up. Let me see what I can do. And then all of a sudden, this new information changes the current thought process, if you will, for what I was. Then cool, I'm going to start to adjust it accordingly. And I think that's also evident in the progression of deism, especially from the 17th and 18th century into today. You see these variations as science and information has exploded. The understanding of the universe has also expanded, and so you've seen minor adjustments. Christian deism, for instance, is growing smaller and smaller and smaller. But things like modern deism and neo-deism, they're growing at a very rapid pace, actually. So, and I think that's also something that's compelling, I guess, in regard to deism versus atheism. And again, deism is not about here's what you believe, now believe it until you die. Again, it's about spiritual and intellectual growth and the willingness and want to do it and being proactive to do it. The vast majority of devout deists that I know are in a perpetual state of study, constantly trying to find new information about their environment, the world, the universe, everything, and not even specifically in a religious sense, but, it could be economics, it could be history, it could be whatever. That's one of the things that, really kind of tugs at my heart, call me a nerd or whatever, but I think that's important. If you're not learning, if everything that you believe and want to believe stopped at high school or before, then what are you doing? And that's the question. Is that the limit of the information you want to have? I don't think that most deists would want that. I don't think that they would advocate something like that. And I think that most deists, regardless of what classification or subclassification, as it were, you were speaking to, would probably tell you that it's very important to learn and to explore and to expand. I saw a comment on one of my videos, the simple word, it said boring. And yeah, that plays into kind of what I'm talking about here. A lot of atheists and even people in revealed religions and so on and so forth, they will find the information or the idea or maybe even these videos in general boring. And again, I'm not here to clown, I'm not here to entertain, I'm here to inform. So with, well, I should say those with an inability or with those who lack the desire to learn something, perhaps this information in and of itself is probably boring. But again, maybe that's what separates deism from most other religions and people in general. Instead of frivolous ego stroking, basically, we tend to enjoy things like intellectual stimulation. And the best way to do that is through information exploration and dissection, the scientific process, basically. And again, yes, I know that's usually boring or perhaps even scary for others, So Yeah. Anyway, so I hope that's answered, at least on the surface. I'm just trying to brush it. I don't want to do a long video on this. But it's a very good question, and that's something that comes up, deism versus atheism. And a lot of people outside of either one of those groups confuse the two, to a disservice to both sides. And it's, again, if you're atheist, then that's great, and I'm definitely not trying to knock anybody. It's just a personal preference, a personal philosophy. I would call it a religious philosophy in a lot of cases. On both sides, it's just different, and that's just another thing, or I should say, a list of things that separates atheism from deism. So, hopefully that answers the question. Feel free to leave comments if you'd like. Thank you for watching, of course, and don't forget to check out my book, Reason, Religion, and the Trinian Contradictions. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and basically that covers all types of deism and some of the history and so on and so forth. It's a very quick read. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have read it, I would encourage you to leave a review. I would very much appreciate that. Again, thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, take care.